Sit for a moment in the dark of night before the crackling flames of a fire, because tonight I will tell you the story of mysterious civilizations that cannot fit within the known recorded pages of history, that mainstream archaeology has still been unable to explain, that speak perhaps of humanity's greatest secret. Consider for a moment, what if thousands of years ago communities existed that possessed knowledge far beyond the technology of our present day? If time is not a straight line as we imagine it to be, but something that curves within itself, that can fold, and that occasionally even intersects with itself. Today, our journey will take you to the very heart of these questions. Are you ready? Then let us begin. First to Egypt, but not the classical Egypt. The Egypt that even official history books don't tell you about. The one that remains isolated beneath satellite images. The one that ground-penetrating radar scans have only just begun to reveal. In 2008, satellite-based ground-penetrating radar analyses conducted just southwest of Cairo revealed a network structure 30 meters beneath the desert surface that no one was prepared for. Tunnels, chambers, perhaps a vast labyrinth system that once served as the knowledge repository of an entire civilization. The Egyptian Antiquities Authority did not immediately offer a definition for these findings. Why? Hold that question in a corner of your mind, because it will surface again and again throughout tonight's journey. Mainstream history tells us that ancient Egypt emerged as a unified state around 3100 BC. But genetic tests are saying something else. A comprehensive study put forward in the journal Nature in 2017 compared the DNA of ancient Egyptians with that of modern Egyptians and found something very interesting. The ancient samples did not come from sub-Saharan African populations, but from a far more nuanced story of migration and intermixing. Who were these people? Where did they come from? And the question that truly fixates our minds: how did they come to possess such sophisticated astronomical knowledge and such remarkable mathematical understanding so early in time? Let us consider the Great Pyramid of Giza. This structure is not merely a magnificent monument, it also functions like a calculator, encoding the number pi, the golden ratio, and the axial tilt of the Earth. Officially constructed around 2560 BC according to the formal history of ancient Egypt. How is this precision achieved with the tools and means available at that time? Archaeologist Robert Schoch believes that the erosion marks on the Sphinx result from rain erosion, and that this structure dates back to at least 7000 to 9000 BC, or perhaps even earlier. If he is correct, then the Sphinx is the legacy of a civilization whose very name we do not know, one constructed far before recorded history. Now our journey carries us to the depths of the Mediterranean Sea, to the vicinity of a wreck accidentally discovered by a sponge diver in the year 1900. Antikythera. This bronze mechanism, found off the shores of this small Greek island, and dated to approximately 100 to 150 BC, continues to compel modern researchers. Described as the world's first known analog computer, this device could calculate the movements of the sun and moon, the Olympic calendar, and even the orbital cycles of planets that were not believed to be known at that time. But what is truly striking is this: the mechanism far exceeds what could have been produced with the technology of the era. Who crafted such sophisticated gears, such finely worked metals, such precise calculations? What community, what accumulated knowledge? Some researchers suggest this mechanism was the final piece of a far more ancient tradition, functioning like a distilled summary of tens of thousands of years of accumulated knowledge. And I want to ask you this. If this device had not been lost to the sea, how would we be writing history today? But now our journey takes us much farther, to the middle of the Indian Ocean, to the Yonaguni Monument, sometimes referred to as the eighth wonder of the world. Near the Ryukyu Islands, at the southernmost tip of Japan, this massive terraced structure rising from beneath the water was discovered in 1986 by diving instructor Kihachiro Aratake. Straight angles, symmetric steps, carved surfaces. Japanese geologist Masaki Kimura says this structure is a man-made artifact at least 5,000 years old, which was submerged when sea levels began to rise at the end of the last ice age. If this is true, it means that an extraordinarily advanced civilization was living in this region 12,000 to 13,000 years ago. A civilization that had no time to write its name into history. The cold waters of the ocean erased everything. But the stones whisper. The stones always speak. Now I want to take you out of those cold waters for a moment and bring you somewhere far more mysterious, far less known, to the frozen lands of Siberia. In 2012, Russian researchers conducted a detailed analysis of a mysterious formation in the Yakutia region known as the Patom crater, described by the local Yakut people as the nest of the fire eagle. It had long been known that this formation, measuring 160 meters in diameter and adorned with concentric rings, was not a geological crater. Radioactivity levels were far above normal, magnetic anomalies were present, and the trees in the area had vanished within a perfectly symmetrical circle. Local Yakut shamans have considered this place sacred for centuries, permit no one to enter, and believe one must keep away from it at night. The oral traditions of a people have often served as a guide for science, but this time science could neither confirm nor refute what the people said. It simply looked and fell silent. That silence is sometimes the most meaningful answer. Our journey now descends southward into the humid, dense forests of Central America, to the very center of that incredible discovery examined by Guatemalan archaeologists and National Geographic's LiDAR survey in 2018. This airborne laser-based scanning technology digitally stripped away the forest canopy and revealed beneath it no fewer than 60,000 Maya structures. Yes, you heard correctly. 60,000 structures. Roads, water channels, fortifications, pyramids. It was learned that the estimated Maya population would not have been sufficient to sustain such a vast infrastructure. That estimates needed to be scaled up by a factor of 5 to 10. Who were these people? Where did this population come from? And why did this immense civilization collapse so rapidly? Drought? Civil war? Or some catastrophe we have yet to understand? The Maya calendar demands advanced mathematics, and its astronomical precision remains breathtaking even today. They had calculated Venus's 584-day orbital cycle and known of solar eclipses centuries in advance. So how did they acquire this knowledge? There is a story preserved in oral tradition. The gods came and taught. Mainstream history regards this as legend. But what if the word gods is simply a name given to the unknown? Our journey now takes us southward, into the lush depths of the Amazon. Because LiDAR surveys conducted in Brazil and Bolivia in the early 2000s uncovered evidence of the remains of a sophisticated urban civilization that vanished 450 years ago, beneath what is today the world's largest biological reserve, Terra Preta, Black Earth. This artificial soil, unlike standard Amazonian soil, is extraordinarily fertile. It contains biochar, organic matter, and ancient bone fragments that are still active. This soil was consciously produced by human hands over thousands of years. In other words, the Amazon was never pristine wilderness. It was a vast garden, domesticated, shaped, inhabited. So, where did the people who owned this garden go? Were they destroyed by epidemic diseases brought from Europe? Perhaps. But genetic studies show that Amazonian indigenous peoples passed through a severe bottleneck long before European contact, meaning the population shrank dramatically at some point. When? Why? The answers to these questions are still sleeping somewhere inside the forest. Our journey now carries us to the middle of the ocean, to the heart of the Pacific. Easter Island, one of the most remote places on Earth, situated 3,500 kilometers from the nearest continent, a tiny piece of land at the center of millions of square kilometers of ocean. And on this tiny island, more than 900 Moai statues rise, statues whose production would have been nearly impossible with any technology known to have existed at the time. Some weigh up to 75 tons, and a few reach as much as 270 tons. Moving a stone of that weight on an island with no intact forest is a serious engineering project even today. So how did the Rapa Nui people accomplish it? According to one legend, the statues walked. In 2012, archaeologist Carl Lipo and anthropologist Terry Hunt took this legend seriously and experimentally demonstrated that the statues were indeed advanced by rocking them from side to side. But the real mystery lies not in the statues themselves, but in the writing system called Rongorongo, discovered in 1868 by a British officer. This writing system has never been deciphered. There are only 26 Rongorongo tablets in the world, and the marks on these tablets bear striking similarities to the script of the Indus Valley Civilization, and even to some Chinese characters. Two civilizations, thousands of kilometers apart, apparently unaware of each other. Or were they aware? Our journey now takes us both geographically and temporally far deeper, to southeastern Turkey, to Şanlıurfa, to the very center of the great discovery that rewrote human history, Göbekli Tepe. The excavations begun under Klaus Schmidt in 1995 shocked the archaeological world, because the structures unearthed here, dated to between 9,600 and 8,200 BC, were built by a pre-agricultural society. According to the theory that had been widely accepted until now, humanity first transitioned to agriculture, then to settled life, and then constructed religious and monumental structures. Göbekli Tepe argues the precise opposite. First the temple, then agriculture. In other words, what perhaps gathered people together, organized them, and compelled them to cooperate was not the struggle for subsistence, but the search for belief and meaning. Now pause. Think about this. Even today in the 21st century, is not belief one of the most powerful forces that brings people together? 11,000 years ago, it was exactly the same. This is something embedded in human nature, perhaps far older than we know. There are still areas around Göbekli Tepe awaiting excavation. Geophysical surveys show that only 5% of the existing structure has been brought to light. 5%. It is like seeing only the tip of an iceberg that protrudes into the sky. The greatest mystery still lies beneath the soil. Our journey now forces us, as we pass from Central America to South America, to pause at a certain point and look up. To the Nazca Desert of Peru. 600 meters above sea level on a flat plateau, strange figures drawn at a scale visible only from the air. A spider 300 meters long, a monkey 285 meters long, a whale, an astronaut. The Nazca lines are dated to between 500 BC and 500 AD and are debated to this day. No one knows for certain why they were made: an astronomical calendar, markers for water channels, a ritual space offered to the gods, or signals made for someone in the sky, created to be seen from above. Archaeologist Maria Reiche devoted her life to preserving these lines because she felt it instinctively. These lines matter. Not just important, deeply, profoundly important. And sometimes a scientist's inner voice surpasses decades of formula. Our journey now takes us back north, but this time across the Atlantic to the green hills of Ireland. Newgrange. This passage tomb, constructed in 3200 BC, predates the Egyptian pyramids by 500 years, and every year, only on the winter solstice, the morning of December 21st, sunlight illuminates the corridor deep inside this structure for exactly 17 minutes. Only that day, only those 17 minutes. This is not coincidence. This is the work of a society possessing astronomical knowledge, capable of calculating the movements of the year, capable of thinking ahead and interpreting the future. In 3200 BC, even before Stonehenge. So who were these people? What did they think? Why did they want sunlight to enter that corridor? Perhaps it was a message showing that death is not the end, that each year renews itself, that the sun will always return. Perhaps it was a consolation directed not at the living, but at the dead. Humanity's ancient curiosity about the unknown, about death, about the cycle of time, it still stands before us today, carved into stone as a message. Now we come to the final stop of our journey, but the final stop is always a door, not a closing, but a new opening. To the state of Tamil Nadu in India, to Mahabalipuram. After the tsunami that struck the Indian Ocean in 2004, as the waters receded, local fishermen and snorkeling tourists were simply stunned. A city appeared beneath the sea. Granite structures, carved stones, a remarkable area composed of precisely cut blocks. India's National Archaeology Service dived, examined, and dated them, the 7th and 8th centuries AD. But local oral tradition said something different. The sacred texts of Mahabalipuram speak of 7 pagodas, 7 temples, 5 of which had been swallowed and imprisoned by the wrath of the gods. Archaeologists have so far been able to identify only one site. Where are the remaining 5? Are they still submerged? The sea is the world's greatest archive, and we have uncovered only a small fraction of what it conceals. Dear listeners, tonight we have traveled across thousands of years, from beneath the deserts of Egypt to the depths of Japanese waters, from the frozen steppes of Siberia to the warm forest of the Amazon, from the stone tombs of Ireland to the submerged cities of the Indian Ocean. And at every stop we came face to face with the same question. How much of the real story do the known pages of history actually tell us? Archaeologist Graham Hancock has been telling us something important for decades. There is a missing chapter in history, and that chapter will redefine who we are, where we are going, and how long we have existed on this planet. You are not obliged to accept this, but you are obliged to accept this. When radar scans find chambers beneath the stones, when LiDAR sees cities beneath the forest, when genetic tests reverse the migration routes we thought we knew, and when underwater photographs bring carved stones to the surface. Asking questions is science itself. And perhaps the most courageous, most human act of all is to say, I don't know, but I want to learn. Tonight the stories I told around the fire have ended, but the fire is still burning, and history is waiting for something from us, that we not lose our curiosity, because these civilizations left messages in stones, in lines, in submerged structures. We have not yet been able to read all of those messages. But as long as we keep reading, those ancient voices will not fall silent. And perhaps the greatest time travelers will not be them, but us, the ones following the traces they left behind. Good night.